So let's get right into it. We're going to explore something that's, well, it's a bit of a paradox. Why is it that sometimes it takes a complete outsider to see what a culture is really all about? There's that old saying, the fish is the last to know the existence of water. And why is that? It's because the water is just there. It's their entire world, the baseline reality. The very things we're swimming in every day are often the hardest things for us to actually notice. And that really brings us to the big question for today. How can a visitor show up somewhere and almost immediately spot fundamental truths that millions of people who live there just take for granted? We're going to use Japan as our main case study here, because it's a really fascinating example of this whole phenomenon. And let me be clear, this isn't some new thing, a hot take from a travel vlogger. In Japan, this outsider's gaze is a pattern that goes way back. For centuries, foreigners have kind of acted like a mirror, reflecting Japan's own culture back at itself in surprising ways. Just look at this timeline. Back in the Meiji era, when Japan was modernizing like crazy, it was an outsider, Lafcadio Hearn, who took the time to write down all this folklore, reminding a nation of the value of traditions they were starting to overlook. Then, fast forward to the 1930s. A German architect, Bruno Taut, comes along and basically tells Japan, hey, this stuff you think is old-fashioned, like the Ise Grand Shrine, this is world-class, timeless design, and that completely changed how people saw it. And after World War II, you have Donald Keene, an American who became one of the biggest champions for Japanese literature on the world stage. See the pattern? In each case, an outsider's perspective helped Japan see itself in a new light. Okay, so what is going on here? Really, what's the science behind this? Let's dig into the mechanics of why this perception gap even exists. Well, in anthropology, they actually have a name for this, the outsider effect. And the idea is pretty simple, actually. If you're an insider, all your cultural norms are just normal. It's just how things are done. But for an outsider, every single one of those norms is a brand new piece of information. It's something to look at, to question, and to try and figure out. And psychology has this brilliant concept that explains it perfectly. It's called baseline bias. Basically, we humans are just not very good at noticing or evaluating the things that are always there. It all comes back to the fish, right? You don't notice the water because it's your baseline. It's the default setting for your entire world. And this is where it gets really clear. For someone living in Japan, a train showing up exactly on time is just Tuesday. It's normal. Clean streets? Yeah, that's just an expectation. Getting your wallet back if you lose it? Not really a big surprise. But for a visitor from many other countries, these exact same things are absolutely exceptional, even astonishing. A lost wallet being returned feels like a miracle. It's the exact same reality, just seen through two totally different sets of eyes. So here's the key. It all boils down to one simple thing. An outsider always has a point of comparison. They have their home country baked into their brain. So they're constantly thinking, wow, this is different from how we do it back home. An insider doesn't have that. They only see the default. Okay, but here's where the story takes a really interesting turn. Because that same sharp outsider's eye that can so clearly see a culture's strengths, well, it's just as good at spotting the weaknesses that come attached to them. Because it turns out every strength has a trade-off. So let's start with a big strength that foreigners notice right away. Japan feels like a high-trust, low-friction society. Things just seem to work so smoothly. And you see it everywhere, right? The little vegetable stands with no one watching them, the fact that lost items get turned in, contracts being simpler. It's all built on this incredibly high level of social trust. But here's the flip side. That harmony, the thing that makes everything so smooth, it depends on getting consensus. Everybody has to be on the same page. And the price of that harmony is often painfully slow decision-making. Outsiders see the endless meetings, the unclear lines of responsibility, and wonder why nothing gets done quickly. The system prioritizes stability over speed. All right, next strength, that incredible, deep-seated cultural focus on quality and the pursuit of perfection. I mean, from craftsmanship to customer service, the attention to detail can be just mind-blowing. And the trade-off? Well, that can lead to something called over-engineering, making products that are way too complex or expensive for what they need to be. Plus, if you're always chasing perfection, you become terrified of failure, and that creates a deep aversion to risk. It makes it really, really hard to take those big, bold, innovative leaps. And a third strength, one that outsiders often admire, is how implicit the culture is. Society seems to run on these unspoken rules, on politeness, on this ability to read the air. It's all about this deep consideration for other people. But the downside, when everything is unspoken and group-focused, it can be really hard to figure out who's actually responsible for what. Individual accountability gets really fuzzy. You hear foreigners get so frustrated asking, so who's the one who made this decision? The answer is often, the group. And when the group decides, no single person is truly on the hook. So this table just lays it all out perfectly. On the left, you have all those amazing strengths we talked about. And right next to each one, you have its shadow, the weakness that's baked right in. That exceptional service everyone loves, it often comes at the cost of a really high labor burden and pretty low productivity. You see, it's not a bug in the system, it is the system. You just can't have one side without the other. And this all leads us to the final and I think most important realization. This isn't just about Japan anymore. This is a fundamental truth about how all societies are put together. So the real takeaway here isn't to sit around judging Japan as good or bad. That's completely missing the point. The point is to understand that every single society is a highly optimized system. It's like a machine that's been designed and refined over centuries to produce a very specific result. And that design always involves compromises. So what is Japan's system optimized for? Well, if you look at all the evidence, it's pretty clear. The entire social system is built to maximize harmony and stability. Both its incredible strengths, the safety, the quality, the trust, and its obvious weaknesses, the slow decisions, the fear of risk, are the perfectly logical results of a system that values social harmony above almost everything else. And that brings us to the final question, the one I want to leave you with. If Japan is optimized for harmony and stability, what about your society? What is it optimized for? Is it individual freedom? Maybe it's rapid innovation or raw competition. And more importantly, what's the inevitable trade-off? What is the water that you might not be seeing?